Hello there. Today we're going to be seeing how long it takes to get the best driver talents to maximum development. Basically how quickly we can beat Verstappen and if it is possible to get them to max overall. As such, this is not really a guide but more of an experiment, but feel free to ask in the comments if anything is uncertain or if you have any questions. If you end up enjoying this video, please like, subscribe, and I appreciate everyone that was watching my streams that gave me the idea. To start off with, I have created a new creator team to make the challenge slightly harder than just using McLaren, which would give us quite a boost in Piastri's development. However, if you take a look at this, probably won't matter much as we've been able to keep Piastri's development at maximum even when he's 28 years old. Mentality buffs to development might need a little bit of a closer look, but let's get into the video itself and we'll show you over time. For our drivers, as mentioned, we have chosen Piastri, but also Bearman, and he will stay with us for the first couple of seasons at the very least, but we will look into it and see if maybe we pick up Antonelli as he becomes a very interesting option that is available in the third season, as he needs to get some F2 experience before we can sign him. So, as we enter the third season, we'll probably compare him to Bearman, and if we think that he'll grow faster, we'll probably pick him up. We also have a team that has level 1 in everything, but we did pick the highest overall staff in the level 1 category. Our goal for this first season is just to try and snatch some points, make some money off the race results, and develop our driver simulator to boost the growth of our drivers. So let's see how we do in this first season, if we survive, and if we get any growth for Piastri and Bearman. As we just finished Monaco, it is time for the first update, and as you can see, Bearman has gone from 74 to 76, and Piastri has also gotten another overall. Both of our drivers are currently positive, and we're going to be trying to keep them that way for the rest of the season. In terms of car development, we have done just a few things. We've used safety on the front wing, we used safety on the underfloor. Apart from that, we just made one of every other piece, and we're not going to be or designing any other pieces to the end of this year, simply because it's not worth it. We're going to have to spend the rest of our investments on research, and our third CSFD period has gone into researching the underfloor, as our regulation change is one that is focused on the cornering aspect of the car. Other than that, we have focused on upgrading our facilities. In particular, we have been upgrading the memorabilia room, we're going to do the final level of, and we also upgraded the tour center. We're going to do helipad too, but we've kind of delayed it in order to boost our, basically, just kind of space out our buildings for the mentality boost. Staff buildings, we have got the race sim up to level 4, which is huge. We're going to try and get it up to level 5 by the end of this year. It's going to cost us 8 million. And we've gotten the team up to level 2 for that mentality boost. We're also going to be, as we get close to summer break, probably going to look into replacing some of our staff. But that's probably going to be a little bit expensive as they are on, in this case, a 3-year contract, 2-year contract. But better staff means better car. And also better staff means better mentality. So it's kind of one of those investments that we want to do early in order to help our talents develop faster. At the end of the first year here, we've had nice growth both from Piastri and Bearman. We've also gotten a lot of the money issues sorted, if you will. But Piastri is up to 87 overall, Bearman is up to 78. And we're not really doing anything special here. We're trying to keep things balanced. High development rate currently for Bearman, and for Piastri we are very high. So things are looking good. And for our driver-engineer relationship, it's still just okay. Probably going to need one more season to get that up into an acceptable level. Now, we have also gone ahead here and spent some money on improving the staff. And what I mean by this is that we've actually replaced all 3 of these men. We are getting Wheatley, Back, and Tondi next year. And in terms of the contracts that we have offered these staff members, we've given them what I would say is fairly competitive salaries. We're going to be paying 4.5 million to Back. We're going to be paying for the other 2 here. If we go back and have a look. For Tondi, paying 4 million, and for Wheatley, we are paying him about 2 million. Now, unfortunately, I failed to record the negotiations, if you will, but we did spend some money breaking contracts, and that's just how things have been this year. There's nothing really getting around that. We've also not been able to fully use our cost cap, which is actually kind of a bad thing. I would love to do a little bit more research, but we have survived the first year without breaking it, and I think that is kind of important. In terms of our spending here, I don't think it actually tells you how much we've spent on breaking contracts, I don't think. Nope, doesn't look like it. But we have spent quite a bit here on doing some buyouts, so I guess we'll maybe see that in next year's financials. But yeah, the first year here has gone very well. We have developed nicely. We've gotten a lot of things done. Facility-wise, we are also looking decent enough. We haven't been able to get the race sim up to the next level. It's something we're going to have to do in year 2. And in terms of the other buildings here, we have maximized the helipad, telecenter memorabilia, hospitality is still level 2. But honestly, it's still a good first year. And we're going to take a quick look at research and everything before we go into the second year. Now, in terms of the research and regulation that we had in the first season, it was basically limited to cornering, particularly low speed, medium, and high speed. For the front wing, we did a very good job, covered all our bases. We crushed it for rear wing, which would give us a huge advantage this next season. The underfloor, same deal. We didn't crush it as much as the rear wing, but still a good job. For the suspension, again, absolutely crushed it. So with this in mind, this next year's car is going to be fairly good compared to last year's. We'll take a look at it before we put on the new parts. And as you can see here, our car is already looking very good. 11th overall, 17th in top speed, 5th, 11th, and 9th when it comes to cornering. And this is just going to improve over this season. So by the start of this first race in Bahrain, it should be fairly dominant. Going into the second season, we are the best car in cornering by quite a margin. We are lacking a little bit in top speed, but we are also lacking our rear wing here, as we had an incident with the wind tunnel, which slowed that down. So the car is already looking incredibly good, and with that, we have gotten some mentality boost for our boys. Bearman is also at 79, Piastri 87. We'll have to see how that develops over the course of this year, but we now have positive mentality from other staff. We have less of a debuff from the car performance, and as you can see that the facilities have started to kind of degrade ever so slightly. We're going to be, of course, refurbishing a lot of these over the course of this season, but we also want to upgrade our design center, our car part test center, and the suspension sim instead of refurbishing those. So we'll have to see what we can do with our money. Now, in terms of car parts, we can, of course, go ahead and make new side pods, make new suspension and underfloor with a little bit more top speed if we need to. But honestly, we're probably going to be fine with the parts that we have until the end of the year. And we are going to definitely be focusing on cornering, as this is the big regulation change here itself. So these parts are going to have to make it till the end. We're going to try and run full project, non-stop research, which probably is going to give us a car that is unbeatable for the rest of this challenge until Piastri either hits maximum or starts to degrade. In the second season, we start off with a podium and a 9th place in our first race, meaning that this season, we might be able to cause a little bit of problem for Verstappen. But the goal here is just to survive the season while doing as much research as possible. I thought it would also be a little bit important to highlight our financial situation going into the second season. Our sponsor deal is very much race focused, with 10th and 15th being our race targets, but our drivers being capable of getting on the podium or close to it very, very regularly. Currently, we are standing to, or rather looking to get second this year, which should help a little bit with development, as that is going to be, you know, boosting our driver stats a little bit, as Bearman's goes up to 81. Yeah, it's going to be very good for keeping them positive, keeping them happy. Probably do need to consider giving Bearman a new contract in order to just boost his development a little bit. Piastri has reached 88 here, and things are looking good. Again, what I wanted to kind of show here was the financial situation. We get 2 million or so each race, which means that we're going to make about 50 million or thereabouts this year, provided we don't have many DNFs. So let's say 40 million from race objectives. That basically says that we're going to have 4 races where both cars DNF. And we also have a huge positive monthly balance of 54 or 5.4 million, which over the course of this year is going to mean that we have basically another 60 million there in board payouts. We are currently running a 5 million surplus. We take our negatives, drivers, staff, facilities. As you can see, we actually pay our staff more than our drivers. But this basically means that we have close to 100 million that we can invest into research, that we can invest into facilities. And we have already kind of started that. We have gotten the Race Sim to level 5. We're going to do the same for the Team Hub. And while we are upgrading the Design Center currently, we're going to be upgrading Suspension Sim and Car Part Test Center, as well as refurbishing the factory towards the end of the season. We are going to get a little bit of a debuff because the facilities are in the negatives. That shouldn't have too much of an effect on their growth. And again, the main focus here is Piastri. I did want to try and pick up Antonelli, but there is in fact a bug right now when you try and sign your affiliates, and I just want to show this one to make it very simple to understand. Go by age, not level. And if we were to post contract here, well, that is for car 1, but if we go affiliate, as you can see, things are moving up very, very slow, and that is because for some reason right now, game lags when you do affiliates, but we can actually get his terms sorted with, as you can see, contract like this. And it would actually be very interesting to put Antonelli into the car instead of Bearman, so that might be a side project we do some other time. So unfortunately for Bearman, Antonelli has more or less caught up with him. We're going to take this opportunity to sign him. Going to put him in the car next year, see exactly how his growth kind of, you know, compares to the rest. But he is already 82 rated at 19 years old. He has an insane growth rate, and if you take a look at Bearman, he has in fact caught up, and he's a year younger. But again, Antonelli probably has a little bit of a broken growth rate in this game, and we'll see exactly how broken it is by potentially catching up to Piastri. So let's see how that goes. Our final race this season didn't go too well with the 10th place, as Piastri's car is literally just screaming at this point. But we have made a lot of money, and it is a bit of a shame with Bearman. We have replaced him with Antonelli. Going to be putting him in the car next season, which should make things at least a little bit interesting. So we'll have to see exactly how that goes. As you can see, Red Bull had a perfect 1,000 points. We have almost 600, so we still have a little bit of work to do on the car, but this has been the big regulation change season. So research-wise, we should be dominating everyone from, you know, 2026 onwards, until either we complete the challenge of getting Piastri or Antonelli to 99, or, you know, they start degrading from old age. You know how that song and dance goes. Now, we are upgrading some stuff like the Team Hub here, and honestly, I don't mind acknowledging this delay. We don't have too much money at the moment, and we'd like to save some money for the start of next year, so it's not really a huge deal. Now, what we have done this year, however, is upgraded the Science Center, the Car Part Test Center, the Suspension Sim to level 2, and we're also gone ahead and refurbished our factory. Operations, we are upgrading our Hospitality Center to level 4, not 5, level 4, which should help a little bit with getting better sponsors next year. We've also refurbished these for the start of next year, so that should be fine as well. We are going to be refurbishing the race sim, but it's pretty expensive, so we're actually going to wait with this refurbishment and get it done by the time we get to the first race next year, because they don't really grow too much during the non-race periods. But yeah, that is basically it for the second season here. Monthly balance is has been magnificent. We made 5 million every month, and as you see, we have really not spent as much as we could on the cost cap here and the research. We basically had research running as much as possible ever since it opened up. But even then, we don't have we don't actually end up spending too much, and we actually have a bunch of cost cap remaining even with the current scenario. So I don't think we will ever reach a point where we run out of money. We actually got also pretty lucky here. But in particular, I just want to show you this. Piastri's car is a wreck. As you can see, the last two engines here are both dying. CRS says both committed, die. And same kind of for his gearboxes. It wasn't super bad, but not great either. But yeah, that is the second season. We are going to be replacing Bearman with Antonelli. And we'll see if him or Piastri reach 99 first, or 100 square on. Let's see how next year treats us. So I assume the numbers are a bit broken here, but our marketability has gone up to 836. But that's not the broken thing. It's the fact that we got paid out 94 million in race targets out of 20 million possible. Yeah, definitely something not correct there with the end of season funding. But I thought we'd take a look at the end of season here, mainly just due to the fact that regulation change incoming. And it would be nice to see just how far ahead we are. So Piastri 3rd, Bearman 4th. We ended up basically 2nd this year, which is very much acceptable. And with that, we increased our team rating quite a bit. And unfortunately for Bearman, as I mentioned, we are going to be letting him go, because Antonelli kind of grows better. And this is kind of a challenge to see if we can make a 100 rated driver and how long it would take us. So Antonelli in. Piastri still here. Should make it kind of interesting. In terms of regulation change, as I mentioned here, we have actually done a pretty good job when it comes to suspension. We are going to be losing high speed. But basically, that is about it. High speed, a little bit of drag reduction. Underfloor, done a decent job. We covered basically 2/3 of it. Side pod, not the best job, but it didn't lose much to begin with. Rear wing, decent enough. We're actually gaining on the medium speed, which is its strong suit. And on the front wing, we've kind of lost out probably a little bit more than we'd like. Probably should put a little bit more safety time into it. Chassis, same deal as the sideboard, but generally here we have kind of, you know, done a great job of dealing with the regulation change, which is 50 to 70%. And this should put us firmly ahead of the AI next year. And that's going to basically just be a catalyst to make the growth a bit quicker. We're going to stick with Mercedes engines because they, again, are just straight up durable. Makes life a little bit easier. But yeah, that is kind of the idea here. Bearman did actually end up a free agent, so we'll have to see if anyone is going to pick him up. He's 83 rated. Haas is probably going to pick up some, you know, silly goose in return, however. So we'll have to see exactly what ends up happening there. But put Antonelli here on short runs, and we'll see if we can, you know, foster his growth in some way. He's unhappy with car performance. Are you joking me? Yeah, I'm gonna take the mentality system and chuck it in the well at this point. But yeah, as you can see, dominant so far, and if we were to compare ourselves with Red Bull, we have the advantage in everything but acceleration. We have 2.5 kph, a huge amount of cornering and cooling, so gonna be an interesting year to see how much ahead we're gonna be by the time these boys grow up fully. So with that said, we're gonna get set up here for the second season. Go through things that are interesting throughout this year, but generally we'll just do an update on how they've grown. And again, we're just simming everything here, so it's going reasonably quick. So at least this year, Haas isn't running a completely broken lineup. They did pick up Bearman, which honestly I don't know if I feel good about that. They have Lawson, but Sauber has picked up Boyer, so yeah, there's some weird stuff going on here, I think. Bottas is down to 82 rated, Rick is down to 78 rated. He's degrading real quick. Yeah, we'll have to see what we can do here. So, as expected here, we have a car that is fairly quick, but we didn't actually lap the Red Bulls. There's two reasons for this, but mainly the fact that we haven't made front wings and rear wings yet, and also the fact that we actually don't even have underfloors yet. I miscalculated financially, and we didn't have the money to make these. That shouldn't be a problem, though, going forwards, as our sponsorship package this year is focused entirely on, well, race results. So Piastri gets his win here. Antonelli comes in second in his first F1 race. And if we take a look now at we can expect financially, our pit crew is still pretty bad, but 2.4 seconds is the average, so I have no idea how they ended up this far behind. Guess I need to go yell at them. But yeah, we're getting 3.5 million now per race. So financially, we should be perfectly safe the rest of the year. And also the fact that if we look at the monthly balance here, which just needs to be forced to update, we go 7 million in plus. So over the course of this year, we're going to get good 90 million just from this to spend. And if we manage to do our objectives in every single one of the 24 races, that is an additional 80 to 90 million. We have a potential, you know, positive balance here of close to 150 million by the end of this year. So we have plenty of money to spend on upgrading our boys. Let us see exactly how their growth goes this year. We have reached the end here of the third season. As you can see, Piastri has grown to 93 and Antonelli to 89. He is basically catching up at this point. He scored 1,128 points over the course of the season, and as you can see, 596 for Piastri, 532 for Antonelli, and we won every single race this year. Now we're going to driver standings a little bit more closely. You can see here that Piastri won 15 out of 24, and Antonelli won 9 out of 24. However, he did win sprints, so that at least went in his favor. And we also failed to get a lot of the fastest laps. And just one race this season, we ended without both cars on the podium. And Antonelli had a couple of problems with his car. Now, Funnily enough here, for the last 3 races, we've had a major failure on the ERS, and even then, Piastri still performed well, so even with... we basically have a car now that is good enough that we don't need to care much for some failures. We'll still just be finding the other car. And in Antonelli's case here, I believe it was another major gearbox failure. They seem to be the ones that has the most effect on your car. That put him outside of the points all the way down to 16th. So that was really the only way we lost points. Of course, we've had, you know, a case where Piastri was actually lapped by Antonelli, but he still came second. So there is some funky stuff going on there. But yeah, third season done. Growth is going very, very well. In terms of the development rate, just take a quick look. Piastri is still very high at 25 years old. Which is probably also the mentality buff. The mentality buff is affecting development rate. Probably a little bit more than you'd like. And the reason why I'm saying this is we look at Antonelli. He's 20 years old. He's 89 overall rated. And he has a max development rate. And if Piastri is still very high in terms of development at 25, then I can guarantee Antonelli might be max for another couple of years. And at his rate, remember, Antonelli starts at 73, I think. He's gained 16 points over the course of 3 years, which averages 5 points a year. 2 more, he might be max rated, but we'll see. Piastri has also been growing fairly nicely here. Not as much, but he's growing basically on average 3 points a year, which means that they'll actually max out around the same time. 2 or 3 seasons more, let's see what we can do. Now also, if you're curious, we have started upgrading our design center, our car part test center, and the suspension sim. We also refurbished both of these as they were getting very close to 0%, and it would be nice to just have them not get the debuff from that. Basically, if your buildings are very ready to fall apart, your staff, your drivers can get a mentality debuff, and because mentality plays a part in development, we're trying our best keep our buildings in shape to kind of make that happen. We also did start to upgrade the hospitality area here, but I mistimed it, so we're not going to get that done for next year, which is going to have a minor effect on our sponsorships. But generally this year, we've gained so much money that it has not been a concern. Financially, we had gained 30 million, and if we take a look here, again, we still have about 30 million of the cost cap remaining. And again, this is with all 4 slots running constantly, so if you have the finances for it, running intense is definitely doable. Other than that though, financially, we are making 15 million a month here. We are, you know, getting everything sorted, so I don't think we're going to have any financial problems for the rest of the save. We'll take a look now at just how basically the end of the season went, but also we'll see how many points they gained on average this season. So I think this needs to be said, but just as an example, we had gained close to 150 million just from race target sponsorship, you know, just from hitting those race targets. And we even missed some this year because, as I said, Antonelli has also won races, and every time he did that, he didn't get to 1.7 million, but we learned pretty quickly and put Piastri down to just second place as well. And it did lose us 400,000 out of those 3 million, 3.5 million, but guaranteed that we were getting money. And even so, I think this number might be slightly too high, to be fair, but we did earn a lot of money from the race targets. With the research we did last season, we are still first in everything, but DRS is factored in us because, again, we didn't focus on that. Regulations were for basically airflow, as well as fire preservation, and engine cooling, so we kind of focused on that, and honestly, our car is looking still fairly strong, according to the, well, particularly when you compare it to the rest of the field. But even if we compare it to Red Bull, we almost still have 3 kph. They barely pip us. It's actually just 1% in terms of DRS effectiveness. And as you can see, we almost have 200 low speed, 150-ish medium, and again, 150-ish high speed. So we still hold a very massive advantage here. And our cooling is basically, as well as tire preservation, 70% to start off with. So even this year as well, can expect another, you know, another chill season of just 1-2s for the entire year. And we're once again sticking with Mercedes. It just makes it so much easier not having to switch components. And we'll test it out once the AI gets fixed as well. Don't worry about that. Let's see what the fourth season has to offer, and maybe just take a quick look at how our car looks compared to the rest of the grid once we actually get that upgraded. We are here at the end of the 27th season, basically the fourth season, And over the course of this year, Piastri has gained a total of 21 points to his stats, leading to him now basically gaining 2.3 overall over the course of this year, which isn't that high, but considering he's 95, it's quite up there. Now, Antonelli on his side has actually been even wilder, and he gained a total of 35 stat points over the course of this year, giving him nearly a 4 overall boost in just this single year. He's 21 years old, he's 92 rated, and most likely, by the end of next year, he might even catch up to Piastri. We'll have to see. They'll at least be very, very close. And I just want to say this again, but the mentality effect on development rate seems to be very, very high. Antonelli's 21, he's still max rate. And if we look at Piastri, who's now 26 years old, and his development is still very high. So as you can imagine, mentality boosting the development might be a little bit too much with also how much it's boosting stats. Now, on the other hand, let's take a quick look at the standings. And similar to last year, we won every race. We only have one race where we lost out on a podium. That was Antonelli with some damage to his ERS, pushed him down to 7th, and we lost out on 6th fastest lap. So in theory, we aren't that far off a perfect season, but of course we could get regulation changes that could give us some extra points, and we scored more points than Red Bull, Ferrari, and Aston Martin combined. Now, as I mentioned here, we had one case of Antonelli off the podium, but as you can see, Piastri wins again. And we have also gotten a little bit better at pit stops this year. We had 9 fastest pit stops, and the quickest one was 1.799 seconds. And if we take a look at the pit crew development now, it is getting up there. Our current pit crew, basically almost maxed here, 3% error chance, 1.846 second stop times, and we still need to boost car building a little bit. By the end of next season, I think we'll probably max all 3 of these stats. I'll be perfectly honest. But yeah, the 2027 season has gone very well. In terms of regulation changes, we'll take a quick look at that as we go to the end of the year. And again, generally here, we have just been focusing on keeping our buildings going. And I'm pretty sure this sponsor number is wrong. It says that we earn 200 million from race targets, but we get paid out 2.8 million when we get both cars on the podium. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is wrong. But we have max marketability now too. Now, other than that, I don't think there's really too much to mention here. We're going to get some extra money from the Pit Stop Championship. Our research has gone very well. We got the chassis and side pod regulation this year, which means that nothing is really going to change. And that means that next year, we are still most likely going to be extremely dominant. Because, yeah, the AI just does not research, does not develop. We did, however, get a couple of good sporting regulations, I'd say, for the AI. The gearbox limit goes up by 1. Same with the ERS, which means that, you know, that should no longer be a problem. You should no longer have a need to buy an extra ERS. And the AI forced through the more money to us regulation, which honestly doesn't matter. We have 65 million in the bank at the end of this year. And in terms of what we've done with money for facilities, we have refurbished the factory, and we also started upgrading both of these buildings to level 4. This one got a little bit delayed, but it is what it is. The Science Center has been refurbished for the start of next year, and we've also been refurbishing these buildings the second we've been able to. So yeah, apart from that, we haven't really spent money on anything. And as I said, our drivers hasn't really gotten any incidents. The only reason why I lost points was because of my damage to ERS. And I want to show you just how insane the current cooling that we have, 75-ish%. I think it's actually supposed to be higher than that. No, it's 74%. And that cooling has allowed us to get through this season by just using just 3 engines. We brought 2 of them down to 20, one at 40 with an error. But genuinely here, we have survived on basically 1 ERS. If we had run this one into the ground and without getting an error, Piastri could potentially have survived this entire season on a single ERS. The Mercedes durability might be a little bit over the top, honestly, particularly as you get up in higher in the engine cooling. But it also tells you that as your engine cooling gets higher, you can actually sacrifice this for performance, for Mercedes at least. But yeah, that is it for this season. And honestly, again, we're probably going to dominate next season too. Let's see how the 5th season affects our driver's growth. So with the 5th season, we also have Verstappen's nightmare, and that is Stroll being his teammate, I think. It might be. Bottas is down to 77 rating, and he's in Aston Martin, with Norris, Porsche, and Ferrari. We have Bamba with Leclerc and Mercedes. Gasly, Tsunoda at McLaren. minute in Williams. Russell has gone back to his ancestral home, I guess. And other than that, Bearman is finally getting a seat here at Sauber. We'll have to see if he develops. And Alpine has decided to walk the path of Haas and picked up Leon and Chambers. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look out for in this season. So as we prepare for our 5th season here, I want to just show you how insane the car difference has become. So we now have almost 4 kph top speed on Red Bull. We now have a DRS advantage for probably the first time ever. We also have still 250, 240-ish low speed. We have a 200 medium. We have almost over 300 high speed. Dirty air tolerance, tire preservation, cooling is even higher than it was last year, meaning that we can probably get by with even less engines, you know, gearboxes, things like that. And we've reached 86% tire preservation, which should make things a little bit interesting with tire strategies this year. But since we're simming, we don't really get to see the benefit from that. But maybe we'll try something funny like a one-off. You might already have seen, honestly, because this has taken a while. You might be seeing some one-offs from certain races that I think might be a little bit interesting. Maybe not. We'll see. By the time we reach Belgium in the 2028 season, we're actually in quite an interesting situation here, as both Antonelli and Piastri are in the running this year, with just 1 point separating them at this point. Antonelli arguably has had the better season. He had one component fail, which put him, outside of the podium, but they're still very close, so we'll have to see if Piastri is going to come out on top, or if Antonelli, who's now 94, is going to be able to snatch that first title. So while we're nearing the end of the 5th season, I have something quite insane to show you, and the reason why I think mentality might need a little bit of a hit to its buffs. So if we look at Piastri here, he's 97 rated. We still have a little ways to go, let's be perfectly honest, but if we go into his development focus and check his development rate, it says he's max. Maximum level of development as a 27-year-old. I think that is a little bit overkill, honestly. Now, in terms of Antonelli, he's still, of course, max rated in terms of development. He's 22 years old. But it does seem like as they get closer to 99, the boys do kind of slow down a little bit. And the best way I can describe this is that we still have 1 month to wrap up in terms of driver skill gain. But so far this season, Piastri's gained 13 points compared to 21 last year. And Antonelli has gained 22 points compared to 35. Now, considering that the development rate is still just set to be maximum, I can only imagine that there is some safeguards in store just to make sure that no driver ends up, with basically max stats. We're lacking a little bit of overtaking, honestly. Might as well put him on race strategy, see if we can get those last 2 points there to max out his stats just on the table. Antonelli, a little bit more work needed. Not as enthusiastic, I assume, considering that none of his stats are 100 right now with 95 overall. So again, it's kind of a weird scenario here. Honestly, it says he's enthusiastic, but again, the stats doesn't really, show it here. There's some weird stuff going on right now. But again, it is more of an experiment, this, to see if we can actually get the drivers to maximum. We have simmed 5 seasons here. Piastri has gone from 84 to 97 with ease. Antonelli has gone from his starter of 73 to 95. To be fair, though, we picked him up, I think it was 83, 84, similar to Bearman. But even then, over the course of the 3 seasons he's raced for us, he's gone up to 95. And I think if we do 1 more year, which is going to be the last year, probably going to be seeing some, again, just less growth. I think they're kind of capped a little bit on how good they can become. But we'll give it 1 more year and we'll see what the game has to offer in terms of their growth. We can also see that staff here has actually grown pretty nicely. Angela and Chan has both grown up to 90 in terms of race engineers. The other staff haven't really gone anywhere. They're kind of still where they went. And again, that's kind of why I do kind of believe that there is something here that slows down development just a little bit as it gets closer to cap to make it harder to make, a perfect driver. Now, if we take a look at the scouting here and just go into race engineers, for instance, we can still see that there are higher rated ones. We actually have, we don't necessarily have the best ones. There's a lot of them rated better, 8 of them, which is understandable. But if we go into driver rating here and go overall rating, For the most part, everyone else has degraded quite a bit. Even Verstappen here has lost 2 overall after he hit basically 30 years old. Bearman is 87. He is currently the 4th best driver, shared with Russell and Norris, so they two kind of reached their ceiling pretty quickly. Then we have Porsche, Leclerc is going downwards, Maloney. And this kind of also a little bit worrying to me, that drivers are losing their skills quite rapidly. And it does seem to be a result of, you know, mentality, I think. Like, lower mentality is probably also having a negative effect on development. If not, drivers are probably losing their skills a little bit too quickly. I don't imagine them, you know, becoming basically useless the second they turn 31. And I don't expect Antonelli to, you know, surpass Verstappen by the time he's 22. And honestly, probably surpass Verstappen by the age of 20. So you can kind of get the idea that there is something that is concerning for longer saves. But we'll take a look at that a little bit later. Now, we are going to be winning this season too, so I'll just do a quick summary. We have almost 1,100 points. We can score another 44 in Abu Dhabi, so not the massive season we had last year, but still good enough. We have won every race. We've been on the podiums for most of them, and we've lost out on fewer fastest laps this time around. Piastri, 14 wins out of 23 possible. 9 wins for Antonelli, and he once again very early this season had a engine problem that actually put him out of contention. If we look at Antonelli's engines, all 3 of them have suffered major damage wear, which means that we're actually going to be using this collection of engines at orange, at yellow, at, you know, still quote-unquote working, as long as it's over 50%, to kind of test that, you know, how much that is going to slow him down in a different video. But with that said, we are going to probably just jump straight into the last season here. As I said here, in terms of the points they've gained this year, Piastri's gained just 13 so far, which is, you know, around 1.5 overall. Antonelli has gained 22, which is basically almost 2.5. We still have to get of course, the points from January into this, but as they've been growing right now, I don't expect that to be more than 1 or 2 points, or even 0, because Piastri has, over the course of the last few like driver development updates, not really had any buffs. He's hit 100 control, adaptability, reactions, but as you can see here, I'm pretty sure that also the mentality buff is just straight up 10. Because 98 overtaking is the only thing he has that isn't at 100. And for Antonelli here, the enthusiasm buff isn't really hitting him, as you can see. He has 100 braking, 100 reactions, but this is the fun part. If we check here, he's not getting those stats reflected here. So there's something weird also going on with the Antonelli currently. We're kind of seeing his true stats. So he's not getting this mentality buff, and it might be because he's unhappy with his salary, and honestly probably should increase it to like 20 million. I don't know how much we're paying Piastri at this point. We're paying him 20. He is, for the most part, unhappy with his salary right now, so yeah, both of these probably going to have to bring them up to 30 million, but financially we aren't struggling. We have 86 million in the bank. We've been basically researching. We just had a research finish. So we've basically been researching all year like we did last year. And in terms of the cost cap, we still have plenty to go on. And we've gone ahead and done some refurbishing, some upgrades of the suspension and car part test center to get those to level 5. And we've just been refurbishing these buildings whenever we have had the opportunity. Factory is going to also be refurbished for next year, kind of needs to. It just hit that limit. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like there might be a limit in place for getting Piastri and Antonelli to maximum, you know, level, if you will. So we're going to do one final season. And if their growth is still stifled, that's just going to be it. But even so, getting both of these boys up to, you know, 95, making them both better than Verstappen in 5 years, is still kind of insane. And to be fair to Piastri and to Antonelli, it's not even been 5 years, probably been more like 3 or 4. But with that said, we are going to finish off this year, and then we are going to take a look at basically some interesting things, if there are any. If not, we're just going to jump straight into next year. Now, I've gone ahead here and loaded the save with Piastri and Antonelli here. As you can see, they're the highest overall rated ones, and they have an improvement, which is basically this stat right here. This number here kind of signifies how quickly they're gonna develop. And as you can see, Piastri is down to 62 at 27, and Antonelli is down to 74. Now, the reason why this is an issue is because according to the game, Piastri currently has a maximized development rate. Keep that in mind. Piastri has maximum development. However, it says here that his development rate is 62. That's a bit of a concern, because that means that mentality is a insane boost to driver development. If his current improvement rate is 62 and his development rate is maxed according to the game, then there is a little bit of a problem. And even then, we can see the same with Antonelli. He was 70 something, sorry. And even his development rate is still maxed. So we're still going to do the final season here just to kind of take a look at things. But honestly, it does kind of tell you that mentality is going to be huge. And honestly, probably getting rid of this contract salary debuff that they're both currently experiencing due to their high overalls probably would improve their growth even more. So you can probably do something even more insane than getting Antonelli to 95 by the end of the 5th year. So let us again jump into the final season here. We'll get the car and everything set up, and we'll see how their growth is, because that's basically what this video is. And honestly, this video, we can probably use it as a basis to jump into the AI at a later date, kind of how they've been developing so far. But let's not do that here. We're going to do the final season. We're going to see how they develop. And I would assume Piastri is going to slow down somewhat, but even then, it's kind of wild. I'm also fairly certain at this point that the end of year sponsor review for race targets is completely broken, because again, this year we have been getting about 2.8 million per race on average. Basically, we've had one incident where we didn't get our goal, but even then, 2.8 million times 20 plus 4 times 3 would end you somewhere around 75 million tops. So yeah, the the team bosses here are definitely embezzling some money if we got 264 million from race targets. And again, financially we are doing great, but it's because we aren't spending our money on anything. We don't need to spend money on upgrades anymore. We're still not doing anything intense because we straight up don't need to. And we've actually finally hit 5-team rating. But yeah, that is kind of the thing here. We don't need to spend money on anything. So that's why we now have 100 million going into the now to be 6th season. And again, it just kind of proves, even with that this game is not made for anyone going past the 3rd or 4th season. Once you get past regulation change, the financial aspect crumbles. It's way better. Don't get me wrong. The financial aspect is way better than last year, but it still leaves much to be decided. It needs to be as much as some people are probably going to hate me for saying this. There needs to be some sort of technological leaps factored into the game, so you can't just hoard wealth infinitely. Because I'm at a point now where if I really, really wanted to, and this would kind of be more of a joke, but someone has already done it, I could go ahead and say sign Verstappen here on an affiliate contract. I could do that. I could snatch Verstappen up. He's not interested right now because it's the end of the season, but someone's already done that, snatching Verstappen up on an affiliate contract, directly weakening our rivals. So with that in mind, you can do some pretty insane stuff with the amount of extra money you have this year because of the affiliate system. You can actually directly weaken your rivals if you have enough funds, and right now we do. Let's face it, it's the 5th season. At this point, you should be dominating anyways. But if we do like a long-term save, we could directly sabotage our rivals by causing some mayhem there. But yeah, that is it for that. Let us actually get into 6th season, get it over with. I'm getting off on tangents here as I'm getting pretty late. But let's see what we can do. It took the AI 6 seasons, but we now have a female driver on the grid. Sanchez here has taken a seat in RB with Bearman, and for some reason Mercedes has gone with Fittipaldi, who is 58 rated. And he's not the only one. We have Wisnicki here, 52 rated in the Haas. Vesti in Williams. And to make things even kind of worse, Drogovic, Vershaw, both of them lower rated, is in Alpine, and Boyer has found his place in Aston Martin. So the AI is doing some weird stuff here with their driver choices for sure. Definitely needs to be looked into. So we have just finished our 6th season, and with that, Piastri has grown to 98 rated. And honestly, this is probably where things are gonna end. Growth has slowed down for both drivers. In particular, this year, Piastri has just gained what I assume is now a 9th point, so it's basically just gotten 1 overall. And Antonelli, while he is 97 rated, he's just got 16 points this year compared to 24 last year. So even his growth is slowing down somewhat, but honestly at this point, I think it's just, you know, stat limitations more so than anything else. And there's definitely also something going on that's kind of weird with the mentality. It says he's enthusiastic. He's 97 overall, but as you can see, he's not getting that mentality boost. So something is going on here that that does not make too much sense. But yeah, that is going to be it for this. We also had an extremely weird result this year where Stroll won in a Red Bull while we got lapped by him. Not proud of that. We didn't have damage to the cars. We didn't have damage to the anything. For some reason, the simulation just, you know, accepted that Stroll is once again a god. So nothing we could do about that. In other words, the standings, we did once again have a good season. We ended up with 1,093 points. We only won 23 races this year. Our win streak has been broken by the godlike Stroll. And we had a couple of races here where we lost out on some podiums. In particular, Piastri lost out on his when Stroll won. Antonelli lost out on an early podium due to some damage to his car. And also the aforementioned Stroll wins. So yeah, just a very, very weird thing. We did win all the sprints, and the exception of just one pole position, we got all of those as well. Now, interestingly enough for the cars here, just want to mention this, we actually survived on just 3 powertrains, but as you can see in the last race, Piastri has picked up some damage. But we've survived on 3 powertrains and 2 gearboxes. I think this is the biggest thing that is impressive, the fact that we've survived a season by just 2 gearboxes. And this is not just for Piastri. This is actually the same for Antonelli, and as you can see here, cooling is at about 84%. So yeah, it's a weird scenario no matter how you put it. But yeah, that is going to be the end of our challenge. We've also gone ahead and maximized our pit crew. Kind of kept them there after they got maximized last year. But things are all looking very, very good. Now, just to end this off, I do want to say that there is definitely something weird with development and the mentality buff. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, as you probably saw at the beginning of the video, Piastri is 28 years old, and he still has a maximum development rate. I can only assume this is wrong, because I have checked his save, and his development is closer to, you know, halfway, down to 0, around 50, 60. And even so, it tells me that he has max development rate. It also does say that Antonelli has the same thing, and also that he is enthusiastic, but we don't see that in his performance for stats. So Piastri has been beating him pretty regularly just due to that. Don't know if it's simply because I'm paying them different, because as you can see, we're just paying 10 million versus 20. So it would kind of be funny to see if we increase this to 30, if that would have an effect. But it seems like once they hit 96-ish, 95 basically, is where they really start to kind of slow down their development. But even so, they have developed nicely. Our race engineers have done the same. So I don't think we can be too upset with that. But yeah, again, mentality, the buffs that it gives just across the table seems to be incredibly powerful, to the point where that probably would be a good idea to take another look at it, have a little bit of balance. And again, if you're going to keep both the mentality system and also the confidence system, then there's no need to have any driver rated over 90. Your goal with the mentality system in its current state should just be to race any driver to 90 overall. When you're scouting for a driver, you just want to look at whichever is the highest rated driver who still has their stats around the 90 mark. That is literally what you're looking for. You're looking for a driver that has the pace stats all on 90, smoothness, control, you get the idea. As long as they have those stats around 90, the mentality will boost them up to 100. And even here with Piastri, I think his lowest stat is 92 overtaking. Like, if it isn't buffed, you can see he's actually getting the full buff here. 100 around everything. So I don't know. It's a weird current situation, but it has shown that you can very easily develop drivers. Antonelli has an insane, you know, level up rate. And just to show you here, we have brought Lindblad with us as an affiliate. He's not really grown at all. You see here, he is getting the full buff from the enthusiastic. He, you know, is not happy with his own results. But again, we can't influence this. This is just him performing poorly. But he is happy with us. He's happy with the team's performance. So he's getting still that buff to his performance. But even that isn't actually enough for him to be winning F2. We can actually take a look at that as well, the standings for F2. And Lindblad did lose out in the last race of the season to an 83 rated, which makes sense, to be fair. But this is also a bit of a problem. Red Bull has a higher rated affiliate driver than their current, and to be fair, to Stroll, he did win a race this season. But again, they're equally rated at this point, so you kind of get the idea. There is something weird going on with how the drivers and everything get sorted. It is a financial issue, most likely. But we are again lost 135 million. And what have I done this year? I basically spent a lot on the facilities with Max Design Center. I might test something out next year with these facilities, but honestly, I can probably just save it to them. And well, there isn't really a conclusion here, honestly. As you can see, the biggest issue is the F2 race result for our mentality, actually. But yeah, although there isn't really anything, you know, decisive here, mentality does seem to have too much of an effect on driver growth, particularly if what I'm seeing here with Piastri still having maximized growth being true. I don't think this is, you know, accurate. If anything, I think this might represent his growth for his age. But again, the game just gives you so little information on some of these things. It doesn't tell you exactly what you need to do to, you know, help with mentality. It just gives you, oh, they love your car, they love the staff, they love the facilities. But they don't give you anything aside from that. Contract salary here. I'm unhappy with my contract salary. -2. What does that mean? How much more would you need to be happy with your salary? If I gave you 20 million more, would you be happy? Or would, you know, just have one buff? How many for 3? Things like that. We should be able to negotiate with our drivers, with our staff, with everyone, to kind of get an idea of what they're looking at. And in particular, this is also something that needs to be probably having a bit of a look at. But mentality and car performance needs to be more separated from each other. That's the way that I'm going to put it. Basically, mentality... Let's put it this way. Let me rephrase. Car performance in particular, the mentality buff or debuff there should be based on how good the driver is, rather than where the car is on the grid. If the car is, you know, if you're the lowest rated driver on the grid, and you're running in the best car, you should be getting a huge mentality buff. But even if you're the worst driver on the grid, and you put it in the worst car, you should at the very least be neutral mentality-wise. I understand there's something like ambitions to play here, but even that doesn't explain the mentality system enough. There's a lot of, you know, unknowns that makes it so incredibly frustrating to deal with. So I would love it if they would just go into the mentality system, go into the sponsor system, and just give more information. But honestly, this is just more of a summary of what I've seen over this series, and let's just end it here. Hope you still enjoyed. It's probably going to be a very long, probably fragmented video to some degree, as we'll be doing season summaries, I think. But yeah, development is definitely in the high gear. You can definitely boost drivers really, really quick. And it seems to slow down around the 95, 96 rating, more so than anything else. And let's be honest here. Antonelli, this year he gained 16 points, as I said. Last year, Piastri gained 14 as a 27-year-old. So again, that does kind of hint towards the fact that the age doesn't play too big of a part. It's mainly the overall. And maybe as you max more and more stats, they still gain quote-unquote experience, I would think. But they can't, you know, take advantage of that. It could be that, I don't know. But yeah, you can definitely make some world stars pretty quickly within just a couple of seasons as it stands. But enough about that. We might continue here, mess around with some maybe region drivers, release Piastri and Antonelli to the wilds, see what the AI do with them. But other than that, that's going to be the end of this video. I have had a little bit of a problem with a sore throat, mainly the fact that if I speak more than 15 minutes at a go, I start dying. So that's why I haven't streamed. I'm probably going to wait with streaming for just a couple of days to be on the safe side. But even so, hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time. Bye bye.